All right. Welcome to episode 93 of Gorilla Radio Show. We're here with a special guest, as you might all be able to see. How about we all introduce ourselves?
All right,
How about
Austin,
we all
we'll
introduce
let you do your
ourselves?
best. We've done this 93 times, just so you know, Paul,
Introduce
and
ourselves.
93 times, he can't get through the intro.
Okay, so
but,
I'm Austin. I'm the monkey guy on the podcast.
I'm Chandran. I'm the language guy. I am an English teacher, actually. Yeah, everybody else knows that, but for our guests, I suppose I should give my credentials.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Greg. You may know me as the comedic relief, but I'm the guy who dooms about the economy a lot because I work in finance. Yeah, you all guys already know us. So, Paul, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Paul. I can't believe I'm on with you guys, but yeah, I'm a journalist. I am a writer. I wrote a book. I guess that's why I'm on. And it's sciencey. It's about trees, and there are no monkeys. Although, is Bigfoot a monkey? Because there's been some sightings of Bigfoot.
That's a great question.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So, I guess, do you want to introduce your book? So it's called Canopy of Titans, right? Or
Canopy
there's a
of
subtitle
Titans.
as well.
It's about the great North American rainforest, and the point is that there's this forest on the west coast of North America that has, it's really spectacular, and it's huge, and home of the world's tallest trees, and people like trees, so we wrote about it. It's not a travel log. It's about history, the environment, science, politics. There's a lot of politics in the environment and climate, all that stuff.
Yeah. I think of the three of us hosts, I think I'm the only one who's actually had the privilege of visiting that rainforest. A few times, actually. So I did get to drive the length of US 1 and then not US 1, California 101, down the Pacific coast, after driving through a bit of Oregon, and really getting to kind of experience that. And then more recently, I did get to go to Olympic National Park, which really was a very breathtaking experience. You don't get to see trees of that size, of that stature on the East Coast at all.
So, where are you guys? Are you in Virginia or North Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
North Carolina. Okay,
Chandran's technically in South Carolina. But...
So start on 101, going across the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, going north.
Yep.
Maybe 50 miles to hit the Russian River, which by some scientific definitions is the southern boundary of this great rainforest I wrote about. So just imagine going north from there, 2,500 miles, and you'll get to the end of it. You'll be somewhere in the Gulf of Alaska. Not in the Gulf of Alaska per se, but, maybe the Gulf of Putin. I'm not sure. Now that we're renaming things that Trump likes. So anyway, so that's the lame joke. But my point is that it's a huge rainforest, biggest rainforest outside of the tropics, and there are no monkeys. I think the closest monkey might be the spider monkey in Central America, but I'm not really sure about that. You Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things we've talked about before, is that there aren't any monkeys in North America.
Mexico is North America, but...
True.
Maybe Belize.
There are no monkeys really north of the Rio Grande, I guess would be a better way to say it.
Except in this, but we're talking about monkeys in the wild.
Well, yeah. Wild monkeys.
Yeah.
I also read the little excerpt of the book on Bioneers talking about how there's not really a name for this stretch of forest. And I thought that was really interesting because the Amazon rainforest is one of those things where it's like, oh, everyone knows the Amazon rainforest, and having that name recognition is probably a really big boon for rainforest conservation in the Amazon specifically, at least. Like, it has that distinct name that everyone recognizes it by, but this what's the name you guys use? The Pacific temperate coastal rainforest?
Yeah, it's a wonderfully awful name. But you know,
I really like the ecosystem stretching from Northern California to the Tongass National Park. I like that name a lot.
I think
was
it's
really
Tongass or yeah.
if you have an hour to waste talking about it, right?
We have as many hours as you're willing to give us.
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting because I've always referred to it as Cascadia, like that was the name of the forest. I guess that's what I always thought it was.
Well, I did too. When I first was writing this book, I thought, I've heard it being called the Cascadia Rainforest, but I checked around with like people who write atlases and teach at universities, and they said, no, there's no name. I have no idea what to tell you. But so
Interesting.
back in our car, driving north across the Golden State Bridge out of San Francisco, 50 miles north, you'll hit the Russian River. There's no sign that says entering the rainforest, and so you don't have any clue where it is or what it's called. So that could be something for the tree lovers out there to take on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that lack of a name has like affected the way this piece of land, like this ecosystem, has been affected in the politics, in the stuff you're covering in the book? Do you think that lack of like an identity has had a negative or a positive or whatever kind of impact on its future and its history?
Well, let me ask you this question: how many of you have kids?
None of us.
None of us.
How many of you have friends who have kids?
I have a few friends who have kids.
There might be no kids in the entire state of North Carolina. But my point is that the people who have kids usually give them a name, and that name helps them, relate to the kid and to love the child and so on. Anyway, not to get too philosophical about it, it seems like giving this rainforest a name would be something you could put on a bumper sticker or a T-shirt, like the Amazon. Our first chapter is called Amazon of the North. That would be one possibility. I mean, it has to be something with a little bit of, something to it.
It's got to have like something you can reference without like saying a sentence to describe it. You know what I mean?
It's the rainforest between Hawaii and Alaska.
Yeah.
That is ever.
I mean, have there been any suggested names? Is there like a Native American name for the region that maybe could be applied to the rainforest? Like,
well,
what do indigenous people call it?
We did a bunch of research and talked to a bunch of indigenous people and asked them this very question. And first of all, indigenous people don't name everything. They name a lot of things, but they don't name everything. For example, Vancouver Island, the biggest island in Canada over on the west side, has no Indian name, no indigenous name that anybody knew of. So this region really doesn't have a historical ancestral name like that that I know of. And what I'd like to see happen is that indigenous people who care about it might get about naming it if they have any ideas. I'm open for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not in the forest naming business, by the way. So
That's fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, I do find it interesting that you do talk about in the excerpt a little bit about, the names you could have gone through, or the names that do exist, and you decided to kind of stick with a very neutral name, Pacific Coastal Temperate Rainforest.
yeah.
Was there like any type of decision about like not giving it a name yourself in the book? Or for the book, rather?
I mean, sure, because then what would you say? I mean, you'd still have to, call it X like Twitter. I don't know what I would call it. I mean, if I have to call it something, it can't, like the forest that shall not be named. I could go that way, and
Yeah.
it's just a matter of the name I chose was really awkward and neutral, but it's being used by a scientist, and so I took that route.
Yeah.
I mean, scientists can be wrong, can they?
Yeah.
famously an infallible group of people.
Yeah. So actually, We did, Chandra and Greg, you may remember this, but we did have an episode kind of about forestry before. It was our Thailand episode I did right when I got back from Thailand, because while I was there, I read this book called Thai Forestry, A Critical History, and it describes this this sort of German forestry tradition, which is, known for replacing wild and like quote unquote unruly natural forests with evenly spaced, same age forests. And I believe that's in the excerpt a bit as well, where you talk about how these younger forests that are evenly spaced, all planned and gridded out, they don't store nearly as much carbon, and they won't store anywhere near the amount of carbon that they currently do for probably 200 years at the size that these trees are.
So this all gets back to the question of, how can trees benefit the climate, right? I mean, we're all concerned about, many people are concerned about climate change. I know the Trump administration, they're aware of it. They don't care. I'm guessing that's because it's
I don't think
money.
they give a fuck about anything. It's okay.
They don't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Modus
That's my point.
operandi of this administration.
What do trees do for the climate, basically? And
how does carbon stored?
My answer is, in little trees, which you just planted. You just planted a little garden of trees there, and keep it watered. They'll do fine. But the big trees are the ones that store a lot of carbon. The little trees don't store any at all, or hardly any. It's a teaspoon or whatever. My point is that protecting the big trees where the carbon is stored is a good way to benefit the climate. If you want to do something with the climate, protect a tree. Planting trees doesn't really do that much. The ancient Chinese planted a lot of trees. They said the best time to plant a tree, there's a proverb quoted in the book, best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today. But if we're going to do some time traveling, the best time to plant a tree is 1,000 years ago. And the best thing you can do today is protect a tree. Protect that 1,000-year-old tree. Or 80 or 150.
I think right now in this moment I live in Asheville, North Carolina. So I'm the closest of the three of us to the last remaining portion of eastern North American rainforest, which is really just a tiny little pocket of western North Carolina now, where those old growth 1,000-year-old trees are. And really anywhere you look, in the majority of America, the oldest tree you're going to see is 150 years old, maybe, because we basically clear-cut this entire continent, including the Pacific Northwest. How much of this rainforest in the Pacific Northwest, how much of that is still old growth, or how much of it is just stuff that it's growing back because we cut it down for firewood 100 years ago?
That's a good question, but I want to put a pin on this. I want to get back to your North Carolina forest, because I want to say a few things about your sweet gum and your pine and all that. But in the Northwest, we have cut down about 80% of the old growth that was here when the white settlers arrived in the 1800s. And of course, that land, those forests, was owned by indigenous people up and down the coast, and there was like hundreds of groups that managed, and I'm not sure what their concept of ownership is, but they were in charge, and this was their homeland. So the white people came, they stole the land, they added a layer of genocide on top of that, and then they stole it from each other, and there was lots of lawsuits and federal investigations. Teddy Roosevelt got involved, and it was a huge mess. But in the end, big companies like Weyerhaeuser ended up with most of the land. It's a rabbit hole of history that I went down in this book. I had a lot of fun with it. There's one chapter called "Looters of the Public Domain," and there's a lot of looting, a lot of crooked crooks, governors of states and senators. U.S. senators got indicted. One of them got jailed. A lot of them were from Oregon. The Speaker of the House from Oregon was particularly criminal, I guess, right word? he's dead, so I can't be
Yeah.
sued.
I think that works.
That's true. You can say whatever
Yeah.
you want. He's dead. I'm a firm believer in things like that on this show. I'm sure you've,
So,
if you've listened, you know.
Greg,
Yes, I have.
you said you said something about like 1,000-year-old trees. So I was remembering this part of the excerpt I read that's talking about like the tallest trees in the world. It says here the Nooksack giant was in history, as far as we know, the tallest tree, 465 feet tall. But the current tallest, because that one got cut down, is Hyperion, which is 380 feet. Also, notably, they have names, which is, to our earlier point. But how old are those, like, 400-foot tall trees? How do we
That is a
estimate that?
good question. And I was curious about the same thing when I wrote that. And so I did a little Googling, how do you calculate the age of a tree based on its size? And it spit out some kind of formula per inch of diameter. You've got so many years. So I calculated based on that a 465-foot tall tree, and how old was that? According to my math and this formula, it's over 2,000 years old. There are people who say that's not possible. It's more like 1,200. But, and the other thing is the key part of what you just read is that as far as we know, is
Yeah.
there had got to be lots and lots of trees that size in the in the days before white settlers came to this region, and they're gone. There's no record of it, and there are in the redwoods there are still some over 360 feet. There's a very tall Douglas fir in Oregon and also in British Columbia, but most of the big trees are gone. You know why? Those are the trees that have the most lumber. You can make the most money from cutting it down and cutting it up, making a house or whatever.
Yeah. Jeez. So the Chandran, you mentioned the Tongass rainforest earlier. I actually Googled that because that was seemingly the most well-known part of this sort of stretch of rainforest. I could be wrong on that, but
It's got a funny name. Yeah, a lot of people are.
well, I think it's also been referred to as the lungs of North America, although maybe that's speaking of the entire ecosystem along the coast. But in my researching this, the Seattle Times 3 days ago actually just put out an article talking about how in 2001, Bill Clinton basically put that whole forest, the Tongass forest, as protected wildlife. And during Trump's first term, he revoked that with the intention of opening up for logging. Biden reinstated it, and now Trump just announced that he plans to rescind that rule once again. And the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, said, "This move opens a new era of consistency and sustainability for our nation's forests so that we can enjoy and reap the benefits of our land." So that's straightforwardly they're saying oh, we can finally exploit this, we can reap the benefits of this land. And obviously they're not talking about reaping the benefits of carbon storing or anything more abstract long term over the Earth's history. They're just talking about, dude, how much money could we make by cutting down these trees? So I guess my question for you is, maybe this is a dark question, but how disastrous would it be if this area was subjected to serious logging over the next 4 years?
That's a good question, but first I want to get back to something that Chandran said. We're talking about the Tongass, and I think his pronunciation was unusual. I never heard it. Tongass. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I've only ever heard it said as a joke, as tongue ass. That's the only way I've ever heard it said. I'm not a West Coaster.
We'll go with it. So in 2018, me and my co-author Jessica Applegate, who did I should say, give her a shout out. She did a great job researching, writing, editing this book. It's not just me. But Jessica and I took a trip, flew up to Juneau, took a ferry ride to Sitka to find out really what was going on with the Trump's first effort to try to get rid of the realist rule. And we discovered that it was pretty weak. He really wasn't into it and gave up after a year or two. Now he's back, and now he says he's more serious about it. And if he was successful at cutting down the Tongass, it would be an enormous hit on the climate, salmon runs, the communities of Southeast Alaska, indigenous communities, and so on. And before that happens, there's just going to be one hell of a fight that you've never seen. There's a lot of people who are dug in up there that really, really want, and not just in Alaska, but all over the country, who want to protect the Tongass. It's 16 million acres of forest, 5 million acres of old growth. The Trump plan has cut all the old growth down, and those are the trees that store the most carbon. The Tongass has more carbon than any other national forest in the United States.
Jesus, yeah, that's. I mean,
Yet
going
another
after the
fucking
old
check
growth
mark against that dickhead.
yeah, like going after the old growth specifically seems like remarkably evil, actually, because you would think that they'd at least save that. You know, like I don't know.
You know, if Bigfoot exists, it would probably live in the Tongass or the Great Bear Rainforest, which is next door in British Columbia. So that's potentially Bigfoot habitat.
That could be a good.
Have we settled with
campaign.
whether it's a primate or not? Is that a settled question?
Bigfoot?
I think our theory was that it's the extinct primate Gigantopithecus. Maybe there's like, you know, a very small pocket of them
yes.
running around.
They still
somewhere.
lurk. I do want to ask you a particularly technical question about carbon storing,
Sure.
and that is like, how like regional are the effects of carbon storing, or rather like if the Tongass or the how you pronounce it? I gotta stop saying it. Tongass. I gotta stop saying it like that. Tongass. Sorry, I got all these things going on in my head right now.
Until I adopt your pronunciation, which I think is a good one, I'm going to continue calling it the Tongass.
Tongass. If the Trump administration, or rather the kind of logging companies and these companies that are funding the Trump administration are in cahoots with the Trump administration, and I do want to get back to the corporate malfeasance throughout the history of this region in a little bit, but if they get their way and they get to clear cut that forest, obviously it would be terrible for the global carbon storage supply, but like how would it affect over obviously a matter of decades and years? How would it affect like the glaciers and the ecosystem, the climate of the region specifically?
Not being a climatologist, I'm a journalist. Just footnote that. My feeling is that it would be horrendous for everything. But before we do that, there's no place to cut. There's no place to process these logs. There's no mill in Southeast Alaska. There's no large mill. There's a small one in a little town called Claywalk on one of the islands there, but there's no mill. There's no place to take them.
Okay.
I mean, you can take them to China, which would be, they do buy a number. They do, well, yeah, definitely not. Although when I was there was a barge being loaded in port in Alaska that was being loaded with logs headed for China. So they do buy some logs, but
I'm glad you're able to add that really important detail, because I think it kind of maybe communicates Trump is doing this for brownie points. He's saying, let's go reclaim this national forest. Let's go cut it down and do whatever we want, but nobody has the resources to do it. It's like when he says, let's reindustrialize America. We don't have any of the infrastructure to reindustrialize America. He's saying it because it sounds good. It sounds macho. It sounds like what a big, strong American should do.
it sounds like a solution, and it's not. People talk about taco, right? People use that term, taco. Trump always chickens out. I mean, that really is only part of it. Trump always finds a way to fuck up. I guess maybe that's.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Tofu. Trump always fucks up.
He fucking does. He does. I mean, a lot of that's just bluster, yeah, to impress his base, who seem to be also enamored by jangling keys and bright lights. So, saying we're going to go cut down the world's biggest tree, right? His morons will, obviously clap and cheer for, we're going to cut down the biggest tree. That's their whole thing.
No, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, we'll make so much money off of, these huge trees, but I didn't even realize, what would it even take to process a tree of that size? Surely something super specialized, right?
Well, you have to take it to a mill, which is the closest one is going to be in British Columbia. Excuse me. And that's expensive. You've got the cost of shipping, postage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess also the carbon cost of transporting the logs is, it's not only the cutting and burning
zero.
of the trees, but also
It's not zero. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, getting back to let me say one thing about the book, because this kind of was dealt with directly by the book. And the point of and really the main point of the book is one of the two main points of the book, I guess. One of them being about the unnamed rainforest. But the other one is that in order to solve the climate crisis, we're going to have to protect trees. I mean, we have to stop burning fossil fuels. We have to stop burning coal. We have to stop driving our Mercedes-Benzes every day. But we also have to protect trees. We can't do one without the other. If we do stop burning fossil fuels, that's not going to be enough. The other thing I want to say is that companies like Exxon, Mobil, even BP, the federal government, are spending billions of dollars working like crazy to try to find a technology that will remove carbon from the air. It's like a bug zapper, and then convert it to solid carbon or something. And they've been spending billions of dollars on this and working on it for decades. Richard Branson once offered a $25 million reward for someone who can come up with a carbon capture technology. One of the people I read about in the book, Andy Kerr, drew a picture of a tree and sent it in. So the point is that there's all this carbon being put in the air over the last 3 centuries. It's still there. It's what's causing global warming. It's what's causing the glaciers to melt, the sea levels to rise, all that shit. And if we stop burning fossil fuels, that's great. We'll take care of the climate of tomorrow. But the climate of today depends on what happens with this carbon that's in the air now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess one thing that I don't know if this has been a coordinated propaganda campaign per se, but my whole life in school, whenever they taught about climate change, it would always be some little cute video that ends with, and just plant some trees so that it'll fix everything. But that really betrays the fact that you can't really plant trees to replace what these trees that are currently being cut down are doing for the global environment. I think my freshman year of college helped with this paper. I say helped, I basically just did basic spell checking stuff for this guy in Czech Republic. But essentially it talked a lot about how mangrove trees in Indonesia it's a big PR stunt to replant those, but most of them, even if they do end up making it to, full trees, if they don't die as saplings, it doesn't really serve anywhere near the same purpose as fully grown, mature, old mangrove trees do, because they don't have those root systems that'll form that barrier, create the mangrove swamp ecosystem. So it's something that they don't really emphasize, I guess, in public school climate education, that you really, really need to protect what's existing now because you can't replace it, at least not for several hundred years.
That reminds me of what the timber industry is doing here in the United States. They have an ad campaign that's been running in Seattle and Portland television stations that says, well, if you cut down an old tree and plant 3 new ones, you'll benefit the climate. It's the same idea as the mangroves, and I mean it's ridiculous. I mean, the timber industry thinks that, and they say this in their advertising, is that the best place to store carbon is in lumber and plywood, not in a forest. And all the science that I've read says that's complete bullshit.
Right, because I mean, once it's wood, it's just wood forever. You know, it's not
trees are
storing
growing
anymore. Yeah, trees grow.
Yeah. Trees grow. Trees capture more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is it like, I don't know if this is too into the scientific weeds of carbon capture or not, but is it exponential? Like the older a tree is, like I'd assume so, right?
Well, it's like a bell curve, right? So you have small growth at the beginning, and then at some point around age 80 to 100 years, it accelerates and hits a peak. And then over the next, centuries for some of these trees last, 1,000, 2,000 years old, if they're allowed to grow, they slow down in terms of their growth. But most of their growth is in the middle years, around 100 years and so on.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. Shows what I know about trees.
I don't know.
We just know about monkeys.
I mean, I know about the things that live in trees sometimes, but I did do a tree climbing course in Cornell. It was Ithaca, New York, upstate
I want
New
you to
York.
know,
Very
we
beautiful.
did make fun of him for doing this tree climbing course.
But my point about this though is there's some really big, beautiful trees in Ithaca, but obviously nothing close to the size of the old growth trees on the West Coast, just in general. Even being on one of those trees for this tree climbing course was kind of horrifying because looking at a tree from the ground, you can see it and appreciate, oh, that's a really big tree. But once you're actually hooked onto a branch up there and physically climbing your way up it, you look down, it's, oh my God, this is so, I'm going to die.
One of the scientists we read about in our book is Steve Sillett, who was a student at Reed College in Portland. It's a very Ivy League type school like Cornell. And he would do his studying in the trees, in these big giant Douglas firs on campus. And later, he began to climb redwoods in California. These are trees that are 300 feet tall. And with a friend of his, climbed almost all of the biggest trees in the redwood forest that go up to 380 feet. The interesting thing is the lowest branch is at an elevation of 200 feet. So it's a chore even to get up there. Yeah. But, once up there, you can do all kinds of things. He got married on there, in the canopy of some redwoods. So tree climbing, not something I do, but...
Yeah, I do remember wasn't there a woman who climbed a redwood tree, or maybe just an old growth tree? I'm not sure. That was at risk of being logged to basically protect it. You're not going to cut this tree down because I'm in the tree.
Yeah, you're talking about Julia Butterfly Hill, who climbed a redwood in a place called Mattole watershed in Northern California, near, I guess, Arcata, and stayed up there for quite a bit of time. And they ended up protecting that tree and actually that entire grove. So
nice. Well, so I mean, environmental activists, you might want to brush up on your tree climbing skills.
Could be useful.
Well, doing a tree sit is a tried and true method of protecting a forest. They had a bunch of tree sits near Olympic National Park this summer in the Elwha drainage, and they protected those forests, and they're still standing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're bringing the tree sit-in, because something I wanted to kind of loop us back around to was you mentioned that about kind of the history of corporate malfeasance and collusion throughout America's time after the settlers take over. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how that is manifesting today? Like how the history of those companies who have taken over all this land for logging purposes, how do they affect politics today, basically?
That is a really good question. This summer, Jessica and I did an investigation of this group called Quorum, which is an alliance between the timber industry and academia, founded in the 1980s, 1990s by Weyerhaeuser, in collusion with, actually collusion because there's something nefarious about this whole thing, with the University of Washington. And their mission was to counter all the information that was critical of logging as an environmental impact, and try to portray logging in the media as, good for the climate, good for biodiversity. And they've enlisted about 17 universities across the country, including Yale and Yale School of Forestry. And the stuff they put out is mind-boggling, just wrong.
Yeah. No,
I think it's something we're seeing kind of as maybe a big pattern of, this has always been true, I feel like, of American academia, but it's really rearing its head again these days, of this kind of, bowing the knee to corporate interests, to this fascist takeover of public knowledge.
That's with regards to the Doge research cuts and stuff. A lot of that, I feel, was a sort of maneuver to force research back into these tracks or these guidelines that are beneficial to the status quo, to corral research, really. If they can declare something, wacky nut job research, then, no funding for it.
Research got too woke.
Yeah, so then all of a sudden you have to play it safe so that you still have a job, and that might mean, maybe logging has some benefits, or playing along with it. But
and maybe cigarettes are good for clearing up your respiratory tract, actually.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, because this playbook was written in the 1950s by the Tobacco Institute. They wanted to prove that smoking didn't harm your health, right? Didn't cause cancer, and they got formed this group called the Tobacco Institute. They produced research that showed that it's fine to smoke. The fossil fuel industry did the same thing in the 1980s to try to combat climate change, and they've been denying ever since. And now the timber industry is doing the same thing by claiming that logging is a climate solution, and it's the same playbook as the 1950s. In Congress, so there's this thing called the Fix Our Forest Act that's been approved by the House, waiting approval in the Senate. It would basically repeal environmental protections for environmental review for logging projects, so that they could just go ahead and cut forests for no reason at all, no concern about the impacts, no precaution for wildlife and the climate. And this is called the Fix Our Forest Act, and people might want to find out more about it, because it is a threat to these forests for sure.
Yeah.
Ironic how they always name the bill the exact opposite of what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Fix our forests so that we can destroy them actually even more.
So I was going to say that I promised to get back to you on your North Carolina forests, and there is a company called Drax that is logging pretty heavily in the coastal plain of Carolinas, Virginia, all the way down to Texas, and making wood pellets for export to Europe, and to make power to replace coal. And this is actually something that's more carbon polluting than coal, even worse than coal. And yet they're calling it renewable. And the governments of Europe and the United States are going along with it. The science says it's not renewable, it's not sustainable. They say it is, because they're making money.
That's a fun little rhetorical trick, because it's like, I guess wood is renewable, but burning it is, obviously worse.
Burning it is a one and done.
Yeah.
Bad thing to do.
But that does remind me, the thing that I completely forgot mid-sentence was, it reminds me of the same rhetorical trick that Trump is doing with the clean coal thing, where it's such like an oxymoron. Yes. Like, I just adding the word clean in front of coal doesn't actually, like, even if
doesn't actually
like
make it clean.
Somehow it wasn't producing like big black clouds of smog like in cartoons, it's still burning coal and it's still using up coal from the earth, you know?
Exactly. And of course, we're going to go down and take Venezuela's oil, and then we'll burn that.
Yeah.
You know, and why not? Because we need the pollution, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
somebody's got to
we haven't talked about Venezuela yet on the podcast. I feel like that we might start spiraling for 30 minutes and we talked about it because it is.
Yeah, we haven't all got on a call together since Maduro got arrested.
So let me ask you this question: Is Venezuela the next Iraq? What's going on? What's next?
It's either going to be the next Iraq or it's going to be the next Vietnam.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
we haven't had one of those for a while.
Yeah, or as things seem to be happening in our modern day, nothing will happen, and it'll just we'll succeed in whatever it is that we're attempting, and
we'll just be the quiet colonial rulers of Venezuela, like it's 1850 again.
What happens around nowadays is America swings its dick around, and everybody just kind of lets it happen,
and it doesn't really hit anything.
Yeah. We're just expending energy.
It's not big enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we're also talking about just like taking Greenland now, which just bizarre.
The rhetoric of these people is near impossible to follow.
Oh no, it makes no
sense.
It's schizophrenic. Fascism is not supposed to make sense.
Yeah,
I think a lot of what it is just the fact that it generates good feelings among less educated voters, I guess. Like,
it's good feelings amongst the dumbest people you've ever met.
Even with seizing oil tankers in Venezuela, I've noticed gas prices go down. That's probably all the average uninformed voter is going to notice, is that gas prices are going down. Like, it doesn't say how we got the gas prices to go down, but it's one of those things where it's hard to fight back against, because the average person might just see like, oh, well, it doesn't affect me. You know, I don't have to worry about this tree. What do I care about a tree? Even though I feel like care for trees is something that's ingrained in us culturally a little bit. Like, if nothing else, through the Lorax. But the way we've sort of maneuvered that, and let me know if you agree with this, but I feel like the timber industry is just sort of positing planting trees as the new form of caring for trees rather than protecting existing trees, which is, you know, obviously not a substitute.
Yeah, they're hallucinating, obviously. And, I mean, they've got to make that case, they've got to just twist the facts as far as they can. And they're getting away with it. You know, people are not all, the public isn't really even aware of what's going on. And I'm sure a lot of forest activists wouldn't like it when I say that, but there is a lot of, malaise, and people don't really care.
No. Mm-hmm. I think people are probably a bit exhausted, right? You know, in the three of our youths, they slammed us. You're slammed like, first off, no more corporate responsibility for climate change. It's all on you. It's your personal responsibility to lower your carbon footprint. It's your personal responsibility to take care of the environment. It's your personal responsibility to enforce that on other people around you. And it's no longer the state's responsibility to regulate these industries.
It's no longer a collective responsibility.
It's no longer a social responsibility.
And we're not going to join other nations, We're not going to join the United Nations or anyone who is trying to solve the problem.
No.
Because there's no problem.
No, there's no problem, and we're too motivated by short-term profit over long-term suffering. So we spent our youth like that. We realized, we all probably realized in about 2016 that it didn't matter, because all it takes is one person who doesn't respect the rules to come in and reverse it all and say, well, thanks for recycling for the last 20 years. We're closing the recycling plant. right? Like it's everybody just gets exhausted. It's not just environmentalism. It's not just trying to, fix our own natural environment. It's everything in our society, in our economy.
Yeah.
When you realize that you're backed into a corner and the people that you're electing to help you, to do things for you, are telling you, no, it's on you to figure it out. Of course everyone's going to be exhausted, right? If gas is $5 a gallon, right? Are you going to give a shit about planting a tree? Or are you going to be trying to get gas prices down because your wages haven't gone up in 20 years?
Well, protecting the environment is hard work. I mean, there's a lot of people who, get paid very little, who work incredible hours. But to protect a forest, you got to work at it every day because, if you don't, one day the timber company is going to come along and one day log it all and it's gone and nothing you can do about it. So it's hard work. And that's why we've got 20% left because, the timber industry will take it all.
Thankless, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a friend of mine is a wildland firefighter, right? They're not only are they trying to protect people's homes, but like they're trying to do some version of forestry, some version of forest management. But they get paid like minimum wage to do that. And it destroys your body. You hike up a mountain to dig a ditch to stop a town from burning down, and they're giving you $7 an hour. I mean, how long are you going to do it for? How long can you keep up caring?
Yeah, and if you survive, it's a dangerous job.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier to destroy things than to build them, obviously. And because of the way that I guess just everything is set up right now, it's so hard to gather up enough energy collectively to do something about it because there isn't any sort of, there's no guardrails anymore. Like the roadless rule is what it was called that Bill Clinton passed, I think. If that's, being removed, then the amount of work it will take to protect those forests without that is going to be hard. And there are going to be people who do it, but without any sort of backing from a state or wider collective social body, it boils the whole project down to activists, and that's a lot of work to put on individual people, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of burnout, for sure.
Yeah.
And,
Not to mention, I mean, he might remove the rule, right? And they've been playing flip-flop for a while on this, but once he crosses that off his list, then he removes the rule. Like I have no reason to believe that the Democrats would reinstate it if they do retake power, right? Like they allow these losses to happen, and then they don't do a whole lot to claw their way back if they do retake
Yeah, I mean,
power. So,
especially because Trump's sort of modus operandi here is to just move fast and break as much stuff as possible. It feels like I think Biden didn't get around to reversing what little Trump did to the roadless rule until 2023 or 2024. And so it takes way longer to reinstate this stuff than it does to remove them, seemingly, which is, I guess, the same.
it's the point.
Analogous to logging is it's a lot easier to cut down a tree than to grow a tree for 200 years,
Well, the thing is that, Trump did reverse the roadless rule and it was reversed by Biden. But the net impact of all of that was zero. I mean, there were no trees cut down. No roadless roads were entered by new roads. So the bottom line is that at the end of the day, it's the same. I don't see Trump cutting down any trees anytime soon because, as I said, there are no mills. He'll reverse the roadless rule and claim a victory and move on to the next flower, like a bee.
Well,
Yeah.
I think this might be a good segue into what might be one of our last questions for tonight. We're kind of running up on an hour now. But who or what is, in your opinion, the greatest threat to this ecosystem?
The greatest threat to this ecosystem is going to be logging. I mean, there's, the Forest Service wants to thin its forests, and it claims that this will protect homes by stopping or slowing down wildfire. That's not true, because the wildfires that destroy homes are driven by wind, and there's no amount of thinning that can slow down a forest fire. But so they're going to try to do that. So logging is a huge threat. There's, the threat of fire is overblown, in my opinion. Although, fire does destroy homes and kills people.
And fire is made worse by logging.
And we know how to protect homes from those disasters, and that is to put on a fireproof roof, vents, and so on. Clear brush around your home and stuff that'll harden your home to protect it. But logging in a distant forest will do no good to protect your home, none at all. So again, that's the threat. The threat is logging, and the Forest Service is going to find every chance it can get to log it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one other thing when it comes to protecting these forests. So I think we've pretty well covered how little the United States government seems to really care about protecting these things and keeping up with them. But
the Forest Service seems to be invested in helping the logging industry get along. Am I?
Well,
right?
they're part of the logging industry. They're part of the timber industry. As a public-private partnership, they're definitely involved.
Yeah. What is the what's the Canadian government's response to these things? How does the forest management in Canada maybe differ? Just over the border in British Columbia versus what you see in maybe Washington or Alaska.
That's another can of worms. It's not good. I mean, for example, in British Columbia, the government wants to cut down all the remaining old growth that's not inside a protected park or natural area, and they've sold licenses to various private timber companies to do the dirty work. The public is outraged. They had a mass demonstration at a place called Fairy Creek on Vancouver Island a couple of years ago. 1,000 people were arrested, but they stopped the logging, and it's basically, citizen action is basically what is proven to be successful at stopping this.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard, but it does seem like activists are kind of the only thing stepping between the complete just domination and destruction of the timber industry right now. So I guess, yeah, I mean, what role do you see activists in the future? Like, is it just to constantly try and mitigate this threat, or what are some other alternatives? What have been happening lately in order to resist this, I guess?
I think the campaigns that I see effective now are the ones against the roadless rule change by Trump, the Fix Our Forests Act by Congress. There's a lot of activism around thinning operations. Pretty much on every front, activists are fighting this very aggressively, and they kind of have to, because otherwise it'll just get trampled.
Yeah. Well, a bit depressing, I guess, but
yeah.
Well, there is good news. There is good news, and that is, if we protect forests, we can definitely address climate change in a way that actually works. So, yeah,
I've heard a lot about. I've seen the word like carbon saturation floated around a bit. I'm not. Does that ring any bells?
You might be talking about carbon sequestration.
Oh, yeah, that might be.
When you sequester a jury, you lock them into a room and don't let them out. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. You lock in the carbon in a tree, you sequester it, or in the ocean, mm-hmm. or in a other kind of ecosystem like agriculture.
Yeah. Well, it does sound like it sounds depressing, but like you said, protecting our forests is the best way forward. So I think work like what you're doing, exposing these things in your book, Canopy of Titans, by the way, it's important.
Check it out, everyone, if you're listening.
Yeah, check it out at home. Yeah, I know you guys can read. Maybe.
I'm not sure still, all right? I'm not sure any of you can read, and I want you to prove it to me by going online and buying Paul's book right now. You go buy the book now.
But yeah, I think there is some hope. I mean, defending trees and forests is something that's pretty visceral and understandable. Combine the two words there.
That's true. I love it.
I know you've listened to this show, Paul. I don't know what it is with Austin, but the minute we get a guest on, he forgets how to speak English.
It's astonishing.
I don't think it's just us, and I think all of you guys are afflicted the same thing.
Well, I gotta tone down the antics. I gotta be professional.
No. You need more antics.
I can do more antics. It's just gonna be me railing about the government. I get more insane.
Yeah.
Well, it is so.
We don't want to call for anybody's death on this show while you're here. And complicit with our statements.
We don't want to make you. You can't make
Listen, I don't want to be hearing from Pam Bondi anytime soon.
But what I was trying to say is, it's a very visceral and understandable form of activism. Is to like put yourself in a line in front of some trees and be like, no, don't cut down these trees. Mm-hmm. And I think it resonates with a lot of people too. Like the classic image of the tree hugging hippie or whatever, but it's something that people understand, like protecting trees. You don't have to go into the, weeds about carbon science and like renewable energy, like just getting people to understand we need to preserve these trees is something that I think a lot of people are ostensibly on board with, but they just feel powerless. And the only way
if you're in the PNW right now, go to your local hardware store, buy 5 feet of chain yourself to a tree. All right? Do not let them remove you. Chain yourself to a tree. I will be joining all of you. I'll be in the Nantahala National Forest. I will be chaining myself to the nearest pine tree with enough slack in it to make it to the nearest gas station so I can buy beer and cigarettes. But I will be chained to the tree. Okay? Get out there. To the tree.
Well, that's my resolution for the New Year's, to get myself chained to a tree.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a good one.
Guys? It's 2026. It's a very special day. It's January 6th. I want you to go out there. I want you to go out there and start an insurrection, but only to save the trees. Okay?
No, hold on now.
Tree insurrection.
Yeah, I am calling for the complete overthrow of the logging companies. They have stolen our forests. Get out there and do something about it.
Yeah, we got to maybe QAnon would resonate if we made it about. Yeah. If we could like hijack that to make it about trees, do you think we could harness that energy?
I think we could do something with that.
Does QAnon still exist?
I think so.
I can't imagine there's any people still holding on to hope, because
I thought Mrs. QAnon left Congress like today. That'd be Marjorie Taylor Greene.
She did, didn't she? She did.
Oh, today. Was today her last day?
Today was her last day.
Yesterday or today? Today, maybe.
I think it was today.
I haven't checked to see if she actually did the deed, but
what an auspicious day it is.
Mm-hmm. My New Year's resolution is to kill.
Who? What?
CEO.
Who is that?
Oh my God.
Okay.
I'm coming for you.
All right.
Now, can you explain that? How about that?
I don't know.
Can you explain that?
Just so you know.
Can I explain that? You said you wanted the antics to come up, and you know what? This is what we do. We threaten to kill people we don't like.
I can't get an explanation.
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about, Chandran? I don't even know.
I think we live in a time where so many people have principles, and all of these short-sighted, cruel, evil people believe that because they want to make some money, they can ignore the principled protests of people. And we've come to a point, like you said, Greg, where we all feel so hopeless. Maybe it's time for us to finally start doing things.
Hold on now.
Okay. Maybe it's time for us to finally start taking action. Go chain yourself to a tree. I'm going on the hunt.
Okay.
I got some prey to take care of.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ. You know what?
All right,
You know what? Let's bring it back real quick. Austin,
Yeah,
stop
let's
trying to
reel
talk
it
for
in.
stop
Too
trying to
many
talk for 2
antics.
seconds. I'm going to talk. Okay? I love you.
And then I'm going to say something. I love you too.
Oh.
You know, the only monkey in a forest activist tool bag, is a monkey wrench. And you know where that leads? Because you guys are the monkey guys.
Wrench and some things. Yeah.
Throw a monkey wrench in
wanna-
your operation.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, because we are the Monkey Podcast, and we never got there because Austin has been doing his best to get a sentence out. Of all, I don't know if you're a primate fan at all, if you're a monkey fan, but I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have a favorite primate? And if you do, why?
I would say I'm more of a Beatles fan than a Monkeys fan.
Okay. Okay.
I would say my least favorite primate is Stephen Miller in the White House.
Okay.
So
I mean,
true.
I would
point.
compare him to a monkey, but I don't want to insult the monkeys.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
They're noble creatures.
He gives us bald men a very bad name.
Oh my God. He sure does.
I forgot where I was going initially before Chandran had an interesting.
We're going to make a super cut of this episode of you going, I don't remember where I was going with this.
But yeah, no, I mean, obviously activism, very important. So get out there and look into some activism. You know, I mean, there's so many causes that need activists behind them, but the Earth is obviously really important cause
It needs our help.
and needs our help. So when we say activism, we don't just mean like planting a tree, you know, as we said. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to protect these forests, and it's thankless work and it's hard work, but it's worth doing because it's the only thing that's going to keep us alive, frankly.
It is. It's worth doing, like, for a lot of reasons, but it's also just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We have but one Earth. Whether or not you're one of those psychos who are like, we're just going to move to Mars. Well, there's no trees on Mars, which means there's no air. So I'm going to have to ask everyone to give at least a little bit of a shit about the world around you. If we cut down every tree, right? What are we leaving for our descendants? We're leaving a barren world that, you know, at the bare minimum, everything you love and see around you now is just going to be eroded away because as we get rid of our forest cover, we just pollute our water. And that's without even burning the wood or using the wood for something. We're just polluting our water by allowing all the soils that take tens of thousands of years to develop to just wash out to the ocean. Fill our reservoirs, fill our streams, fill our rivers, and kill our fish. So I suggest everybody take care of it.
Yeah.
Right on. Well said.
Yeah.
And
Well,
one
I'm
last-
glad Greg
one
knows
last
how to.
thing.
Okay.
One more last
God.
thing.
One more last thing.
This is the very last question. I'm not letting Austin ask you any others.
I was gonna say you
Good.
know how to close an episode.
I do
Good
know
at
how to
it.
close an episode. So before
You
we
did.
go, I'd
Before
like
you kept
everyone's going to answer this, including me. But I'm going to start with you, Paul. If you could give it a percentage chance between 0 and 100, how real is Bigfoot for you?
You want the serious answer? I'll give you the serious
Yeah.
answer because,
Oh,
you know,
serious answer.
I've been to some of these forests where Bigfoot could live.
Mm-hmm.
And just because no one's seen Bigfoot that I know of, I mean, reliably, people have claimed. I would say the chances are not zero. Greater than zero.
Okay.
Greater
Maybe
than
less
zero.
than
I
one,
take
but greater than zero.
Okay.
I take greater than 0. Chandran, what about you?
They killed him. They killed Bigfoot. He's dead. He's been dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zero.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
They got Bigfoot.
That's-
They got my man.
But what about Mrs. Bigfoot? Because if you got one Bigfoot, you got to have another one.
That's true.
They're all
You kill
dead.
one,
Could be few.
you...
You think they got them
It's
all?
not in...
This is gonna be the beginning of my like true spiral into like true nihilism and like depravity. Like Bigfoot's gone. There's no more Bigfoot. like fuck, what's there left to live for?
And we found another one over here.
Yeah, Austin, what about you? You're a primatologist. Let's hear your realistic percentage chance odds. Do you think Bigfoot's out there?
I don't think Bigfoot's out there. I mean, I think that there's maybe an animal that is consistent enough, or several animals that appear to be Bigfoot for eyewitnesses. But I don't think there's any one Bigfoot. Like, maybe there was one freaky like bear walking around on two legs at one point that people thought was Bigfoot. But I think in terms of an actual like ape walking around, big feet, stomping on the ground, probably zero. But you know I'll agree with you. It could be more than zero. Maybe not. Maybe not 1%, but could be more than zero.
Okay. All right. I am gonna give it. I'm going to give it a 15% chance of being out there. I do think that there is a realistic, maybe cultural memory, especially amongst Native Americans, of maybe encountering the last few Gigantopithecus as they migrated from Central Asia into North America.
Maybe.
But I don't know. But I think that about does it for this episode, everybody. Obviously, you guys know the three of us. You guys know where you can find us online, anywhere. Check us out if you like this. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Guerrilla Radio Show. And I want to thank Paul Koberstein for coming on this podcast with us. We are a bunch of fucking crazy people. Paul has a wonderful book out right now. Please go check it out. It's called Canopy of Titans, The Life and Times of the Great North American Temperate Rainforest. Check that out. And Paul, where can we find you online?
I have a website called Times, times.org, O-R-G. So I'm there. All my collective archives are there.
All right.
And otherwise, I'm working on the next book. So maybe down the road somewhere you'll hear from me. We'll see.
Absolutely. We hope to. Thanks again for coming on the show. And to all of our lovely viewers, I hope you can learn how to read very fast. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.